Hey, if you are learning Dutch seriously, then this video, this masterclass is going to save you a lot of time, money, and frustration because it will show you how the process works from where you are now to total Dutch fluency. Okay, it's one masterclass divided in a couple of videos. If you have any questions about it, you can ask me and then just join my free community and I will help you there. Bye bye.
Learning Dutch is simple but not easy. That's what I'd like to show you today. And with one simple system. As you can see here, this is the Neanderthal tribe sitting with the beautiful windmills. And this is how you learn Dutch, right? Immersion. And today, this is what I'd like to show you. This is the system. First, I'd like to show you the foundation of the system, then the systemization, then the implementation, and then action. Sounds good, right?
Yeah.
And then after today, this is my promise. So please let me know if I keep my promise. So after today, you will know what to do to get your Dutch to the next level. So that's why we needed your level, because you need to go to the next one, right? Which resources you need to get there, what you should not do with those resources, how long it will take you, and how to make sure that you'll actually do it, right? So you won't say, I'll do some Dutch tomorrow. Nice, so let's dive in. The foundation is going to be the natural method, of course, so I'd like to briefly take a look at that, but not too long, because it's not the previous two masterclasses. And then I'd like to look at the systemization, so the principles you need to follow and how you set everything up, and we'll do that together. So that will be the super interactive part. And then the implementation, I'd like to decide upon a strategy, right? That you can twist for, you can tweak for your own needs, and to choose some sacrifices. So some things you actually will not do until you have achieved your goal. And lastly, we have set everything up. So what do you need to do when the time is there that you've put in your calendar and all that? What then do you need to do? Let's look at that as well. And I tried to keep everything as simple as possible. So to look at the minimum stuff you need to get from 0 to C2, right? That's why I called it one simple system. But let's look what it really means. This is the basic definition. It's learn a language by understanding and using it through listening, reading, imitation, and meaningful communication. That is what it is. And it is only that. So anything that is not meaningful or not listening, reading, and imitation and communication is not part of the natural method. For example, memorizing a list of words is not part of this method, right?
Yeah.
Then one of the basic ideas is that if you are learning words, you are learning Dutch. So that the most important component of the language is words, not grammar, not sounds, not sentences, but words, individual words. And this is my personal opinion. This one, listening is the most important skill, I think, in any language, but maybe also in life, right?
Yeah. Indeed.
I mean, I'm not sure. I'm only 32 years old, but I have the idea that's very important for everything. And then again, if you want to be able to listen correctly, you won't understand if you don't know the words. Obviously, right? It sounds so logical, but we forget it all the time. So dedicate your time to learning words will be most important. And then this is the natural method in 2 images. It is how a baby learns. And then because we are adults, we can also read. So use books. On the left side, I put a baby because the natural method, they often say that's like children learn. So children learn their first language. All of we have learned our first language with the natural method, just by listening a lot. And then slowly we started to communicate. First in a very strange way, just with our hands. Then we started to go goo goo gaga, right? So that same process, the natural order, you also follow in a new language. So first you understand, but you cannot really say anything, right? Then you can say a couple of words, then you can make your first little sentences. And actually, a lot of mistakes that children make in Dutch, also foreigners make in Dutch. And this is true in any language. So it's very, very similar, but we are adults. Our brain is already formed. So some things you will learn a little bit slower. Some things you will learn faster because we can read. So that's why I put the second image here. So the natural method uses that power, right? It's not like we're only going to listen as if we were babies, because we are not. And one difference between the baby and the adults is the pronunciation. So a baby can get perfect pronunciation, but adults cannot anymore. And that is not because of our brain, but because of our throat, which I always like to mention that it's your tongue and your throat muscles that are just fully grown, right?
Mhm.
So this is all the natural method. This is not the natural method. So for example, doing Duolingo, like words in isolation is not meaningful. So it doesn't count as natural. For example, looking up lots of rules and making grammar exercises outside of a book, outside of a meaningful interaction doesn't count. Also, it's not so frustrating as you see here. So this is what the natural method is not, the frustration side, right? Which is like you get the rule, but you still make mistakes. That is part of the grammar method. But in the natural method, you don't look at the rule. You just make the mistake and try not to be frustrated. Then you see a typical grammar book is not part of the natural method, but the dialogues in the book, they are, right? And then below you see the science. I Googled science and put this image here. And that's because the natural method tries to stay outside of the meta language. So normally in other methods, you look a lot at Dutch and you look a lot about Dutch. You speak about Dutch, right? So you, for example, talking about the perfect word order or about adjectives and nouns. All those things are part of the meta language and they are not part of the natural method. So within the natural method, we try to stay in Dutch and never speak or think or write about Dutch. Everything okay, Morak? Nice, okay. So this is the natural method. This is not the natural method. And the basic assumption is that we learn languages when we understand messages. And all human babies show that that's enough, right? Children learn how to speak perfectly just by understanding messages and then imitation and stuff like that. But we are adults, we are faster, we can also understand the messages in books, right? So that's why an adult can learn a language faster than a baby. It takes a baby after he or she is born like 1.5 years or something to say one word, right? You can already say the one word after 1 minute with the Dutch language. So this is the natural method is also a bit one of the pioneers of the natural language is the writer of this book, Stephen Krashen, The Power of Reading. So he was also saying that it's the children way plus reading. So of course I try to contribute to this natural method with my book that you can read. And this is the best summary I could find why reading is the fastest way to learn a language. Number one, it's the fastest way to learn new words. And we've seen that words are the most important component, right? And this is studied extensively. And in any language, also Dutch, it's the fastest way to learn new words is extensive reading. You also observe the grammar naturally. So if you read enough, you do better on a grammar test than people who prepared for the grammar test without reading, which is pretty crazy, I think. Then reading makes understanding what you hear so much easier. Reading also improves your speaking. So if you don't listen, don't study grammar, but only read, your speaking skills get significantly better. Has been tested all the time. And when you read, it makes you forget you're even learning a language if it's interesting enough. So you can learn a language just by reading. But there's a little side note there. If the language is very different from your native language, like Chinese, it will be extremely difficult to speak when you only read Chinese. You understand why, right? But for Dutch, you can learn Dutch just by reading, and then when you start speaking, you will sound very weird, but you'll get used to the right tone pretty quickly. So let's say you need to leave now, right? You cannot follow the masterclass anymore. You leave now. Then please remember this. Just read in Dutch, keep reading, and your Dutch will improve. Then why is reading so much powerful than, for example, speaking? Well, look at this. Spoken English uses, I couldn't find any details for Dutch, like these specific details. That's why I used English as an example. But in spoken English, there's about 3,000 word families. And in novels, there's 4,000 word families. So when you read a novel, you'll learn so much more words than when you speak with people. Right? So that means you can, when other people use words that you found in a novel, you can understand them. But if somebody makes a phrase with one novel word in there, let's say, and you haven't read a novel, never in Dutch, then you won't be able to understand that sentence, right? So therefore, reading gives you a big vocabulary to understand people and to speak. So it goes like this, right? Reading gives you a big base. You understand this much. You can say this much. And then I just wanted you to notice here that children's movies and children's school journals also use the same amount of words as novels and newspapers. So children books are not easy, okay? Don't try to read them at the A level. It's a big beginner mistake. So that's about the power of reading. Is everybody still here?
Yes.
Yes, right. So just summarizing, on the left, you see the baby that follows a certain order in development of language and also in the development of, for example, walking, right? First, they just lie down, then they can sit, then they can crawl, then they can walk, more or less. And this is called the natural order. And according to the research, learning Dutch also has such a natural order. So there's certain things that you always learn first, no matter how much the teacher is going to explain or drill or practice, you will learn some things earlier before you will learn other things. So there's a natural order. There's whole schemes and stuff you can find online. So if you're interested, I can send them to you. It's quite interesting. For example, de and het is one of the last things you do correctly, right? And one of the reasons is because it doesn't interfere with communication, right? You don't need to say it correctly. We'll understand you anyway. So that's the reason why the natural method says we don't drill grammar, because the natural order is there. We just focus on the words, make sure that builds up slowly, slowly, slowly. We do that with reading and listening. And then the output, like speaking and writing, will follow. An example of how to learn words with reading from a passage from the book. Reza rent naar het bed en roept Jolanda, Jolanda, help, brand, brand. Jolanda doet haar ogen open en springt uit bed. Reza en Jolanda rennen, blah, 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 blah. So my question is, what does brand mean?
Fire. Fire, yeah.
Fire, right?
Yeah.
Fire, or there is a fire, or that's clear because there's the picture, there's the intonation, right? So that's how you learn brand. And I'd like to show you how does learning words in general, but especially in the natural method, how does it go, right? So now you've seen it for the first time, brand. Here, you look at it, you have no idea. Then it's white, okay? The word brand is just blank. Then after you've read the text, with the intonation, you have an idea. Okay, it probably means fire, but you're not 100% sure maybe, right? So you're here. Then the next time you see it in a different context, maybe you get confirmed. Like, yeah, there's also a fire here. And again, the word brand, so it makes sense. But maybe it also means something else. You don't know that at that point, right? This is a problem with a word list, that you get one meaning, but you don't know if that's the only meaning. You don't know if that's appropriate to use in certain contexts or not, right? So that's why memorizing a list of words is not entirely useless, but it's definitely a waste of time, because you can, after that, definitely not use the words. And many times you cannot even understand it within a context because it's used in a different way, or you won't remember it. So this is how it works. You can say it works in 5 levels or 6 or 7, it doesn't matter. But the idea is, first you don't know, then you have a vague idea. Then you get a little bit more context. You can say de brand, the fire. Mijn vinger brandt, my finger burns. So it also is a verb. Then de bosbrand, forest fire, okay. And you can use this expression, my heart burns of desire. Right? And then the next step, or maybe step 7, whatever, is that you'll get that word in all contexts. So this is, I'd like you to really feel this, that you cannot put a word in your brain and then you know it and then you can use it. It's a gradual meaning that will slowly integrate into your language and into your vocabulary. And the only way to do that is to see that same word over and over again.
Mhm.
And all of this is part of the natural method, because the natural method says that's why babies, they will listen and they will hear the same word over and over again. And at one point, they'll start saying it, just like us. And when you read, this goes even faster, because you can read so many pages in the same time that you have a conversation, right?
Mhm.
So reading is faster than speaking. So you will see more words more times. So that means you will learn more Dutch in the same amount of time. Makes sense, right? So that's a natural method. And that is the foundation. There's much more to say, but this is the basics.
Thanks for watching. If you want to ask me some questions or make your personal Dutch plan for free, join my school community and I talk to you in there. We'll upload the next part next week, so see you then. Bye bye.